Ivan Toney is one of the best strikers in the Premier League right now with Brentford. In fact, he's the third highest goal scorer this season, only behind Erling Haaland and Harry Kane. However, his story to this point has been interesting and different to others. He was a Newcastle reject and was loaned out several times to different lower league clubs in England. Despite this, Ivan Toney persevered and never gave up, and now at 27 years old, he's worth over 50 million euros and also has become an England national team player. So, how did Ivan Toney overcome so much adversity in his personal life and football career to become one of the best in the business? Well, let's take a look at the rise of Ivan Toney's career. Toney was born on March 16, 1996 in Northampton, England, and was raised by a single mother, Lisa. He grew up pretty poor, and his mother often sacrificed eating for herself to feed her kids, Ivan included. This, along with many other sacrifices, is why Ivan Toney gives a lot of credit to his mother for his success. Now, Ivan Toney always loved football as a kid. His dream was always to go professional, and his mother supported him a lot as well. That's when she allowed him to go play for the under-18s of Northampton Town FC, a team currently in League 2 of English football. Ivan Toney eventually became a member of the senior team and made his debut for them in the FA Cup. With this debut, Ivan Toney became the youngest first team player in the club's history. Then in the next 13-14 season, Toney scored his first professional goal when he started against Dagenham and Redbridge and bagged a brace. One of the goals he scored was a bicycle kick too, showing that he had the talent to do ridiculous things as a striker. He then finished off the 13-14 season with only 3 goals and 1 assist in 15 games. But he was still a teenager at this time, so it was kind of hard to judge him. Then the following 14-15 season, Ivan Toney took off. In 44 games for Northampton, he managed to hit double digits in goals, getting 10 and also getting 4 assists. Additionally, in this season, Ivan Toney scored a header in a 3-2 away win in the League Cup against Wolverhampton Wanderers, who were in the championship at the time. This performance against Wolves and his other amazing performances throughout the season had Wolves wanting to sign the striker. However, the deal sadly collapsed due to an undisclosed medical issue from Ivan Toney, and instead in August 2015, Ivan Toney signed for Premier League club Newcastle United on a long-term contract. Going from League 2 to the Premier League is a huge step, especially for a striker as young as Ivan Toney. Now he had to compete with all the other strikers Newcastle had, like Alexander Mitrovic, Jose Perez, Florian Thauvin, Papi Cisse, etc. He still made his Newcastle debut in the League Cup against his former club Northampton, despite the depth they had up top. And he also got to play in the Premier League as a substitute against Chelsea in a 2-2 draw. Ivan Toney only managed to make a couple more substitute appearances for Newcastle before he was sent out on loan to Barnsley for the remainder of the season. Now, although this season Barnsley got promoted to the Championship from League 1, Ivan Toney didn't play much of a role. He only scored 2 goals total for Barnsley, one against Colchester United where they won 3-2, and an EFL Trophy game against Wigan Athletic in the quarterfinals. Ivan Toney then returned to Newcastle, but not for long. That's because to start off the 2016-17 season, he was sent on another loan move to Shrewsbury Town for half a season. He scored his first goal for the club after converting a penalty against Oldham Athletic, and then scored another the following week against Bury. Throughout the next few months, Ivan Toney scored 7 goals in 26 appearances for Shrewsbury before his loan deal ended. That's when in the same 16-17 season, Ivan Toney was loaned out again to another League 1 club called Scunthorpe United for the remainder of the season. He made his first start against Port Vale and scored against them in a 3-2 home win. He continued to score 5 more goals for Scunthorpe, bringing the overall total of the 16-17 season to 14 goals, 8 assists, and 43 games for Ivan Toney. The loans keep on continuing because in the 17-18 season, he returned to League 1, joining Wigan Athletic. He then scored his first goal in a 2-0 away win to Oldham Athletic and continued to play consistently for Wigan until January, where his deal was cut short. And then Newcastle decided to loan him back to Scunthorpe United for the remainder of the season. Ivan Toney immediately came back and scored a winner in a 3-2 away win against Fleetwood Town and scored more goals until the campaign finished. In total for the 17-18 season, Ivan Toney managed to get 14 goals and 4 assists in 46 games. You would think that Ivan Toney dropping these impressive performances in League 1 would mean that Newcastle would finally give Ivan Toney a shot, right? Wrong. Because Ivan Toney returned to League 1 again, but this time on a permanent deal as he signed for Peterborough United on an undisclosed fee. Now at Peterborough, Ivan Toney's career really started to take off. Toney was already a League 1 veteran at just 23 years old because of how often he played in the league. And his experiences helped him do extremely well in his first season for Peterborough as well, with him getting 23 goals and 8 assists in 55 games. Toney also had iconic moments in the season, like scoring a hat-trick in a 4-4 draw against Bradford City, where he also scored a goal from the halfway line. He also scored another hat-trick 3 weeks later against Accrington Stanley, and performances like this showed why he was one of the best strikers in League 1. Then the 1920 season came along and he still performed really well, with him getting 7 goals in the first 7 league games of the season, which also included a hat-trick against Rochdale. Overall in that season, Ivan Toney got 26 goals and 7 assists in 39 games, before the season was abandoned because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Still though, these amazing performances this season from Ivan Toney had him awarded the Player of the Season award at League 1. Now with performances like these, it's obvious that bigger clubs in England were starting to take notice, and Brentford did. That's when Brentford snatched up the striker on a 5-year deal for around 5 to 10 million pounds, while they were still in the championship. It wasn't Premier League football that Ivan Toney dreamed of, but it was a step in the right direction. But real quick, before we talk about Ivan Toney's time at Brentford, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it and it means a lot, so thank you. Anyways, Ivan Toney scored his first goal for Brentford in the third match of the season against Millwall. He then continued his goal scoring form by scoring a brace against Preston North End in the next game, another brace against Coventry following that, and then another brace versus Sheffield Wednesday following that. He continued his goal scoring form that entire season in the championship for Brentford, and overall he managed to get 33 goals and 10 assists in 52 games. Not only that, Brentford made the championship playoffs, where they were trying to make the Premier League after 74 years. Brentford then lost the first leg of the semi-finals against Bournemouth 1-0, which meant that Ivan Toney and the rest of the Brentford squad had to step it up for the next game, and they did, because in the second leg of the semi-finals, they beat Bournemouth 3-2, and Ivan Toney bagged himself a goal in that game. This win meant that Brentford would face Swansea in the championship final, and in the game, Brentford ended up beating Swansea 2-0, and Ivan Toney got the opening goal in that game. With this win, Brentford were finally back in the Premier League, and a huge reason for that was because of Ivan Toney's amazing performances up top. And now Ivan Toney was finally going to be able to accomplish his dreams of becoming a consistent Premier League player. Now off the bat in Brentford's first Premier League game, they surprisingly beat Arsenal 2-0, and Ivan Toney went the full 90 minutes in that game. Then in the third game of the season, he bagged his first Premier League goal against Aston Villa. He scored a ton of more important goals that season for Brentford as well, helping them stay well above the relegation zone at 13th place. In the season, he scored a goal against Wolves to get their second win, helped defeat Everton with a solo goal, scored his first Premier League hat-trick away from home against relegation team Norwich City, giving Brentford 3 important points, and also got a brace against Burnley, another club that got relegated last season. Overall, in 37 games that season for Ivan Toney, he got 14 goals and 6 assists. Not bad for Ivan Toney's first full season in the Prem. Now there were a ton of transfer rumors in the summer of 2022 for Ivan Toney, but he ended up staying at Brentford for another Premier League season, and he's improved tremendously. In 33 games so far at the time of me recording this, he's got himself 20 goals and 5 assists, already beating his stats from the previous season. His goal scoring form hasn't slowed down. I mean, in the first game against Leicester this season, he bagged himself a great goal. Not only that, he scored a hat-trick against Leeds in a 5-2 win, scored a brace against an impressive Brighton team and helped Brentford beat them 2-0, and he also scored a brace against Manchester City in a 2-1 win for Brentford. It's not just his goals that make Ivan Toney an elite Premier League striker though. This season, only Mitrovic has won more aerial duels than him as a striker, and also Ivan Toney is taking the 6th most shots in this Premier League campaign too. However, one of the most important aspects of Ivan Toney's game though, in my opinion, is his amazing penalty taking ability. Out of the 28 penalties he's taken so far in his career, he's made 27, meaning a 96.4% conversion rate from the spot. Not only that, in the Premier League, he's converted all 10 of his penalties. An amazing penalty record like this would be useful in international tournaments if a penalty shootout ever occurred. However, although Ivan Toney was on the short list of being on the England squad for the World Cup, Gareth Southgate went with Callum Wilson instead. Nevertheless, Ivan Toney never gave up on representing the country he was raised in, even though Jamaica were trying to recruit him heavily. He stayed strong to his belief that he could represent England, and in March 2023, he featured in the game against Ukraine at 27 years old. Ivan Toney is a late bloomer for the England national team, but hey, at least he's representing them now. With Ivan Toney continuing to score tons of goals in the Premier League for Brentford and is now starting to be a regular for England, it only makes sense that bigger Premier League clubs are taking notice. However, Ivan Toney's career might be in jeopardy. In November 2022, Ivan Toney was charged by the FA with 232 breaches of betting rules, with a further 30 breaches in December. Ivan Toney even accepted the fact that he did break these betting rules, and now it seems like a lengthy ban of multiple months could happen for Ivan Toney, which puts his transfer to a bigger club this summer in jeopardy. Nevertheless, Ivan Toney has become an elite striker in the Premier League and overcame a ton of obstacles to get to this moment, like growing up in a poor household and playing for multiple lower league clubs in England. However, in the present day, it's clear that Ivan Toney has become a top Premier League striker, and if it wasn't for a looming ban, I'm sure any of the big 6 clubs would love to have it. Well, except maybe for Man City, since they already have that robot Erling Haaland. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And if you want to learn more about another top talent in the footballing world, Vinicius Jr., you should definitely check out this video. You won't regret it.